there is a chance that the top of this cycle is 1.5 million per Bitcoin. And the reason for that was actually very simple, but it goes back to like that Satoshi magic. If you take the assumption that this past cycle was a sham, like I think that realistically the top should have been uh, 350K. And the reason is, it's the same reason as why I think this could be 1.5 million, which is that if you look at every single cycle, except for this past one, you always 100x from the bottom of the previous cycle.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel today. I am super excited. I have Brandon with us, which is Chief of Staff for Bitcoin Media. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Maurizio, and excited to chat.
Yeah, likewise. We have Abu Dhabi coming in, so Bitcoin conference, we're going to talk about it. But if you don't mind, can you tell us about yourself and how you got into Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I got into Bitcoin in 2017. I actually met David Bailey, our CEO, at a panel at my university. I went to the University of Alabama, and it was all about this. To set the backdrop, it was 2017. Trump had just won the 2016 election. He had just taken office. I was on a university campus, and at the time, I was very much bought into this. The fake news rhetoric is what handed him the election, and it's all nonsensical, and there's something really bad going on here. And there was this panel between David Bailey, who's the CEO founder of Bitcoin Magazine, BTC Inc., and this writer from the New York Times. And I was like, oh, this New York Times writer is about to lay some truth bombs on him. And David just absolutely stole the show, and he was talking about you know the future of media is decentralized. It always has been since the beginning of the printing press, and even before then. And Bitcoin is going to do the same thing to money. Bitcoin is going to decentralize money, and it's going to fundamentally shift power structures. It's going to create a new elite in society, and it's all happening right before our eyes. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And if you want to know more, come find me after the panel. And I was like, okay, I got to go talk to this guy. And long story short, I didn't know anything about Bitcoin. I didn't know anything about blockchain at that time or anything, right? I just was a senior in college. I had a free summer after I graduated before I started my next job. And I said, I can come move boxes if you'll teach me about this Bitcoin thing. That's exactly what I did. I organized the Bitcoin magazine print magazine closet. It was a complete mess, and so I spent the summer just categorizing all of our magazines and helping ship them out as an intern. And now I run the company. So it's been a little bit of a journey over the past 7 years. Definitely have learned a lot about Bitcoin, and yeah, we've got a huge events portfolio that I oversee. We've got a almost 100-person team at the company. That's the short of it.
Incredible. I mean, what a journey. I have to say, I have met him. I met David in Nashville and also in Amsterdam. He did a beautiful speech. And of course, the locations are so amazing. We have Abu Dhabi coming in, just finished Amsterdam. Nashville was incredible. I think this year was Hong Kong, which I missed because I couldn't do it. So I'm looking forward to 2025. And of course, in the links in the description down below, you will find Brandon's Twitter account, or X, I should say. And of course, the links for the conferences. But how have you gone from like an intern to creating this empire? I mean, if you don't mind sharing some insights, because I'm sure it's been an absolute journey, right?
I think about like some of the key decisions and key things that we've done throughout the year or throughout the years, right? And first and foremost, I hope he doesn't hear this because he doesn't need to hear it. But David Bailey is legitimately one of the smartest people in the industry. I mean, he's truly a genius. And so there was a lot of high stakes decisions to make where we had no clue whether it was the right one or the wrong one, and only found out afterwards, right? And so, there's a couple of examples. Number one was in 2018, at the end of 2018. It was the beginning of that bear market. Bitcoin had gone from, $20,000 basically to, I think we were sitting at maybe $3,200. The market was suffering. We were all still wondering, like, is this all just going to come crashing down? Is it over? Right. And we had this conversation internally. We were like, okay, if everything fails, if it all goes to zero, at the time we were, doing enterprise blockchain stuff, we were doing crypto stuff, we were doing it all, right? We were like, if it all goes to zero, what will it have been for? What are we willing to stake everything on? And the answer was Bitcoin, right? Everything else, we didn't pretend to be the smartest guy in the room. We didn't pretend to know how all these decentralized apps and blockchains were all going to pan out. But we knew Bitcoin really well. And we believed in Bitcoin fundamentally. And so at that point, we decided to go all in on Bitcoin only. And I remember the conversations we had with our shareholders, with the board, where they were like, you're cutting out 90% of all of your potential customers and clients and everything to go Bitcoin only because you believe in it. It was the funniest thing. And of course, we launched the Bitcoin conference 6 months later and never looked back. And, it really goes back to this whole idea of what do we value? What do we believe in? And let's just focus on that. Let's just be better at than everyone else at what we love. And so, 2019, Bitcoin 2019, we had 2,000 people there. It was, a big conference at the time, it felt like, especially in the middle of a bear market. And the next year we were going to do Bitcoin 2020. And then COVID hit. And we were going to do March of 2020 was when we were supposed to do it. And it was this crazy situation where we actually had one of our employees living in Shanghai, but he was in Wuhan in December, and he was texting us, and he was like, "Yo, there's something weird going on over here. There's like this cough going around," and we are like, "Get your ass back to the United States now! Like, get out of there!" And he came back, and we put him up in a company apartment, and I didn't let him leave for 2 weeks. No idea what a quarantine was. We were like, "I just don't trust you," going around. And so anyway, the long story short is at that point we were like, this conference is I mean, like we've got some major issues. And so and all of our Chinese sponsors were like pulling out and saying like, hey, we're not going to do this. And so we then immediately went to San Francisco. We were like, hey, we got to get out of this contract. Like there's a global pandemic about to happen. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And we were like, I promise you, we do. This is massive. This is happening. It was a 2 month showdown. And eventually in March, like a couple weeks before the event, they finally let us get out of the contract. And I say all of this to say that for about a year, we were watching Bitcoin price go up. We had, very little in terms of revenue or income coming to the company because we were mostly an event, right? And we had a core team of about 12 people who none of us took a paycheck. We all just loved Bitcoin, and we were willing to grind through the bear market, build up the Bitcoin Magazine brand, and start from scratch. And what that meant was in January of 2021, we were ready to announce like Bitcoin 2021. And we talked to a lot of different people to try and get this event planned. And there was only one person really in a government position who was willing to hear us out. And it was Mayor Suarez of Miami. And we were basically like, hey, if we bring the Bitcoin conference to Miami, can you promise us that you will allow us to do an in-person event in 2021? And he said, bring it, let's do it, we'll figure it out, I'm in. And I think that really was the beginning of what we've built. And Bitcoin 2021 was famous because we had Bukele announce legal tender for Bitcoin in El Salvador at the conference. We had Michael Saylor make his first public appearance, and a myriad of other different kind of moments, let's say. And from there, we've just grown this event to be a cultural touch point for Bitcoin. And we've weathered another bear market in 23, and in 24, this past year, we managed to get the now president of the United States. So that's sort of, I guess, the long story of how we got there. And then I know I'm rambling, so I'll just quickly say my path through that. I started out working on the media partners for the event. And then I started to oversee the ticket sales for Bitcoin 2020, which was a nightmare. And then come Bitcoin 2021, I oversaw all of the programming and the speakers. And so that gave me a real opportunity to start building relationships with a lot of the key people in the industry. And by 2023, I was in charge of the whole event. And in 2024, like you said, we had four events internationally on four continents in 4 quarters. And I was in charge of scaling the team and putting those products, into the world and making it all happen. So yeah, that's the long story short, although it wasn't that short.
Amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you, because without you, it wouldn't be the same. And by the way, I did miss Miami for like a smidge. I was supposed to be going, but then something happened and I couldn't jump on the plane. So, but I'm really glad I've done Amsterdam, I've done Nashville. I will be in Abu Dhabi coming soon. And of course, from now on, it's going to be part of my routine, because I can tell, I always say, you cannot fake passion. You can fake many things, but you cannot fake passion. And I have to say, when I was in Nashville this year, it was incredible. Like, the room was full of energy. When Trump walked in, the doors were locked, and I think we had 50,000 people in, more or less, chanting. It was something incredible. I would always remember
Yeah.
it. And this is something you created.
Thank
Truly
you.
incredible.
Thank you. No, and like truly, we have a phenomenal team. We've got 40 people basically who pour their heart and soul into these events, and it feels like a lot to me. It's honestly a very small number when you think about all the things that we try and juggle on these events. But I mean, truly, 40 rock stars that make these things happen. And the one other thing I kind of left the thread of Trump says the weave, right? Like you gotta keep the weave. You gotta get back to what you were saying earlier. But these key decisions that we made along the way that I think really went back to our values and went back to boldly kind of placing bets. In 2021, the kind of key thing was we were like, in-person events are special. And I don't know if you remember, but like 2020, 2021, everyone was doing virtual events. And it was basically just a Zoom call that everyone else was just supposed to like kind of sit on the call and listen to two people talking over Zoom. And we were like, that like that's it's great for content, it's great for podcasts, but it's not great for an event. You miss the special in-person element. And so we were like, we're going to be the first event in the world back from COVID that was in person. And we were. I mean, we literally were the first event in the world after COVID. And it, again, it was thanks to Mayor Suarez, but I think that added to the specialness of the moment. And I think it also reflects on Bitcoiners, because Bitcoiners, number one, were able to kind of make their own decisions. They were able to parse the information, the data that was coming around the world, and make their own choices of what sort of risk they were willing to take, which that's how they got into Bitcoin in the first place. Let's be real. But second of all, they believed in Bitcoin and the movement of Bitcoin so much that they were willing to risk it to go in person. And I think that just speaks volumes. And one of the things we did as with that event is we had Chamath Palihapitiya, Kathy Wood, and Anthony Scaramucci, three massive names, especially at that time, who all three wanted to speak at the event, but were only able to speak virtually. And we ended up telling all three of them, you can't speak because this is an in-person event. And it's crazy to say this now because it doesn't seem like that crazy of a thing to say. But at that time, what do you mean you can't speak? All events are virtual. We're willing to participate virtually. It was this crazy disconnect. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing that I'll quickly say is just like values. And I think this probably gets us into a bigger conversation too, is at the beginning of this year, David and I were sitting in his house and we were like, it's an election year. Bitcoin is on the ballot. We need to get the presidential candidates to come speak to the Bitcoiners. We think that Bitcoiners are going to decide this election. And so, and this is our biggest chance to change the course of history. I mean, realistically, for Bitcoin anyway, like we have an opportunity here to fundamentally change the way that the US is approaching Bitcoin. And all we need to do is get these presidential candidates' attention on it, get them in front of our audience, help them understand what it is we want, and they'll buy in, like they'll agree to it. And so, I mean, it's a bold thing to say in hindsight that we're going to orange pill all of the presidential candidates, But sitting here in November, as crazy as it sounds, I would say there's a mission success with that. So it's been a wild year for that regard.
100%. I'm so glad you've done it. And by the way, after the assassination attempt, I was like, okay, is it going to happen now? Because there's going to be, and you guys pulled it off, and it was incredible. Like I said, I flew from Dubai, so it was a hell of a journey to go to Nashville. I decided also to go after to Amsterdam because I wanted to be part of it. Because, like you said,
Mhm.
nothing beats the in person, especially in communities as tight as Bitcoiners. And I had a chat with Jeff Booth actually, and he told me you are too smart to be a Bitcoiner. Because I do have a portion of my portfolio which is super small, and I like to play. I like to gamble, the casino, and we had a good conversation. And he kind of re-orange peeled me again, saying, "Hey, because my passion is Bitcoin. Like I love to talk to people like you about Bitcoin, right? That's my thing. But every now and then, I don't mind talking about altcoins. But speaking about gambling, dude, Las Vegas next year. Oh my, it's gonna be epic."
Dude, it's going to be so epic. I actually had a conversation yesterday that I can't share, but you'll see that David tweeted, I think both yesterday and today, something to the effect of like, book your travel now. Uh, this is going to, this, I hate this whole like over promise. I don't want to over promise, but if what we think we can pull off, we can pull off, which was my refrain about getting Trump last year. So, like I have hit pretty well on these things. Um, this won't just be the biggest Bitcoin conference ever. This will be a truly transformative event for the whole world. And so for that reason, you cannot miss this. Like I am expecting people who don't know anything about Bitcoin to be FOMOing into this event uh, based on the things that we think we can pull off for it. So I know it's very broad. I know it's saying a lot without saying anything, but we have a truly special moment in the works for B25. And, it's funny how the timing always works out. Yeah, Satoshi's 4 years, 4 year cycles with the halvings and everything that just somehow magically correspond with major moments in the world. I think it's going to align pretty well that we're going to be in the middle of a rocket ship bull market at the same time as this event's happening, at the same time as maybe we convene a few world leaders and get inserted into something even bigger than just a Bitcoin conference. So that's all I'll say about it for now. But stay tuned.
It is impossible not to be bullish. If you think about the whole thing, and this is connected to what I wanted to ask you next, because if I think about 4 year cycles, we are entering into the banana zone, as we say, right? So a lot of gains. Then you have the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. There is talk about
Mhm.
Bitcoin reserve currency. Cynthia Lummis did a speech after Trump. She was kind of trying to convey what she wants to do. So the whole thing is giga bullish. I mean, how much are you like? I can't keep it together, to be honest, because I try sometimes not to be too bullish, but I struggle because we are now at $90,000, give it or take. Nobody cares besides a few of us involved in Bitcoin since probably a few cycles. Retail is not even remotely here. ETFs are scooping up like crazy. So I mean, how do you see this wave coming in? Because like you said, next year is going to be epic. Like if Bitcoin respects the 4 year cycle, we are about to see like a humongous move. Are you still in the 4 year cycle, or you think the ETF plus Trump plus election is going to break into super cycle? I mean, what's your view here?
It's the billion-dollar question, maybe trillion, maybe quadrillion dollar question. I mean, I'm serious. The reality is I said a couple years ago, and I'll stick with it, that there is a chance that the top of this cycle is 1.5 million per Bitcoin. And the reason for that was actually very simple, but it goes back to like that Satoshi magic. If you take the assumption that this past cycle was a sham, and I think there's a couple of reasons why you can say that. Number one was Elon got into Bitcoin very publicly and ignited a mania phase right at the beginning of the bull run. You remember it was January of 2021, and up until that point we were just steadily marching. And then January 2021, Elon puts Bitcoin in the bio. He says in hindsight it was inevitable. Tesla accepts Bitcoin. They put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And the next thing you know, you're at like $20,000 Bitcoin prices to $60,000 Bitcoin prices in like 3 weeks. Um, and I think that that actually short circuited the run quite a bit. And then what happened on the back end of that was China banned Bitcoin, uh, and Elon came out against Bitcoin, basically saying chart published to show basically the reduction in uh, coal energy like production, and therefore like CO2 emissions based on China banning Bitcoin. Was what Elon then jumped in and said, like, oh man, this environmental impact's no good, and I'm out on it. We're going to pause, everything that we're doing. And so obviously we tanked, and we tanked actually into the announcement that we had planned with Bukele announcing legal tender, which should have been, in the middle of the bull run, and it should have, sent us much higher, and instead it barely made an impact, which was, very disappointing to me. But and then on the back end, the second hump of that bull run was all just manufactured leverage with a FTX Ponzi. And so this past cycle, I think, was just BS. Like I think that realistically, the top should have been 350K. And the reason is, and it's the same reason as why I think this could be 1.5 million, which is that if you look at every single cycle, except for this past one, you always 100x from the bottom of the previous cycle. So you saw that, going from, it was like $2 to 250, and then you went back to what was it, like 180, maybe it's 150 or something like that, and then we went to like 1200. But basically, like every 4 years, you get like 100x from the previous bottom. And so if you just look at the previous bottom for the past cycle, we had gone down to 3200. And so, and actually in the 2017 cycle, we more than 100x from the previous bottom. So, the idea was that if we're at 3,200, maybe we get to 350,000 instead of, 320,000. So that was my kind of target. But the bottom of this past cycle was 15,000. So 100x would be 1.5 million. So I put that out there as like something that would be, I think, shocking to everyone, but would actually fit with everything that Bitcoin's done up until this point. But we'll see kind of what happens. But to your question of like, could this be a super cycle? I think it could be. And the reason is that there are so many structural changes. I think this is the cycle where retail, to your point about like retail is not even here. I don't think retail really even affects the market that much this time around. And the reason is that there are players now who aren't just dipping their toes in, they are fully into Bitcoin, and they operate at an order or two orders of magnitude higher than whatever retail can do in a given day. And so, this is institutions, this is Fortune 500 companies, and this is governments. And so I think you're just like like we've gotten 15 years to front run these guys, but the game's over. Like we're entering into the end game now, and they're gonna control this market from here on out. But the only way they can control it is to participate, and the only way they can participate is to buy. And so I think it's just going to send us dramatically higher. And the last thing I'll say on this is the key narrative to watch. I think, of course, there's the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which we can talk about, and there's other countries looking at buying and acquiring Bitcoin, but it's actually MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is the key narrative of this cycle. And what you'll see in January is the FASB accounting rules will change. That will allow MicroStrategy to be entered into Invesco QQQ and the S&P 500 indexes. And so what that means is for the first time, you'll get institutional passive flows into MicroStrategy stock. But the way that MicroStrategy stock works is that effectively for every dollar of their stock you buy, MicroStrategy is going and buying $1 of Bitcoin. There's actually sometimes they're able to buy $1.07 of Bitcoin. And so you get this flywheel effect where, these passive flows come in. MicroStrategy turns around and buys the equivalent amount of Bitcoin. That then pumps the Bitcoin price, which then pumps the MicroStrategy stock, which then induces more passive flows because they're going higher and higher up the ranking of the Fortune 500 or the S&P 500. And so you can get this effect where like every dollar that goes into MicroStrategy induces more dollars to then go into MicroStrategy, which then is pumping the Bitcoin price the whole time. And that's one company. Like that's just a small software company that was a $1 billion company a couple of years ago. When you have Microsoft flirting with buying Bitcoin, when you have a dozen other public companies that are all adopting the full-on MicroStrategy play, you can get a massive effect to the Bitcoin price where there is no Bitcoin to go around. Like we meme about the supply shortage. Like this supply shortage can be very real very quickly where tomorrow they have a mandate to go pick up 1,000 Bitcoins and there's only 100 available, and they're going to have to climb the order book really fast to get the other 900 in order to fill their mandate, and it's going to send us. So that's the key thing that I'm watching for, and I really do think that it's under talked about. And yeah, it has me really adjusting my expectations for what this cycle could be.
There is so much to unpack here. So first of all, I couldn't agree more with you. Like I was checking the data actually yesterday on the show, and the level of Bitcoin on exchanges is back to 2018. When we haven't even seen the fun part yet. So now I have friends. They message me saying, "Hey, we've been reached." Like a bunch of Bitcoiners in my network, OTC desks. They are contacting people desperately because they want to give 20% premium on Bitcoin now. So I think it's we will see a huge supply shock coming in. ETFs, I think they changed everything because now all of a sudden self-custody is not a problem anymore, and you can buy Bitcoin with a phone call, right? So Michael Saylor is schooling everyone. And at this point, if you don't buy Bitcoin, you are shorting it because you are thinking, hey, this guy, by the way, today I've checked his portfolio, sailortracker.com, 30 billion. They bought in 10 days, 6.6 billion. He's going all in. So now you have all these companies saying, wait, we have trillions of dollars on our bank account. Like Apple is a $4 trillion company. They have a lot of cash. Should we put 1% in, 2%? Are we shorting it by not having it? What are we going to do? At this point, I would position Bitcoin as a store of value more than anything. So that means gold is the competitor. Gold is 18 trillion. Bitcoin is 1.8. So even if we go half of it, like 9 trillion, that's half a million. Like easy. And that's like, there is trillions of dollars coming in. Saylor is writing a playbook. So next year, people are going to say, hey, this Michael Saylor guy, he's been killing it. Like just by doing one thing, which is buying Bitcoin. So what are we going to do here now? I think we will see an institutional FOMO coming in so aggressive. I think retail are going to be stuck with meme coins and small cap value alts, whatever. There is also an ETF on Ethereum, which is going okay. The inflow is starting to pick up again because when people think they missed the boat on Bitcoin, well, they look into something else. I think we'll see index funds of a bunch of different coins. We'll see products hitting the market. I think this is different because now, we've been waiting ETFs. The Twinkle brothers, they wanted ETFs since forever, and it's been denied. And now Grayscale has sold basically everything into BlackRock, so they are accumulating like nonstop. I think we are about to experience something we've never seen before. That's why I know that every time we say this time is different, but damn ETF, it's a different ball game.
I agree, and I think that as strange as like sort of the Bitcoiner that I am, as strange it is to say it out loud, like BlackRock deserves a lot of credit because ultimately, Michael Saylor is before he became famous for Bitcoin, he was famous for operating a dot-com bubble stock that pumped and crashed, right? And it's one thing for him to come out and say Bitcoin is the future of value. It's another thing for the most famous hedge fund manager in the world, Larry Fink, to come out and say Bitcoin is the future of value. And yeah, like it at some point induces a career risk for you not like to maintain the old adage that Bitcoin isn't real or it's a scam or it's a bubble or whatever. Like you end up looking, you have to justify to every LP, every investor, every person who's given you a cent why you didn't participate in the single greatest trade in the history of humanity. Your job is to make me money, and the greatest trade ever was going on while you were actively managing your fund and you didn't participate in it. Why, how do you defend that? You can't. When the most famous hedge fund manager is participating and you're not, you can't defend that like position. So either these people are going to get on board or they're going to lose every dime out of their fund. Like there's only two options. And the other thing too, talking about the career risk is all of these Fortune 500 companies that are getting passed by Michael Saylor as he climbs the ranking have to defend to their shareholders why they're sitting on a pile of cash or treasury bonds or something else while this other guy is buying Bitcoin and he's lapping them on the charts. I mean, this is the best performing stock in the United States, and not to mention that Metaplanet, which is a Japanese hotel, they are a Japanese company. All right, that used to own a lot of hotels. Now they own one hotel. And then with that money, they buy Bitcoin. Metaplanet is the top performing stock in all of Japan. And they own one hotel. Okay. Like there's only so many times that this playbook can play out in public before people figure out that, oh, this isn't like a quirky little one-off thing. This is like what I need to be doing with my company yesterday. Otherwise, everyone else is going to do it. All my competitors are going to do it. And I'm going to be the one bankrupt, stuck holding the bag. So there is a career risk that's deceptively being introduced into the Fortune 500s as well. And I just think that that's something that it's really hard to quantify what that does to the cycle, because even these funds, right? Even like a institutional fund, they have a pool of capital, right? They have kind of a set amount of money that they're going to be able to put into Bitcoin. But companies are flows. Companies have flows in, they have flows out. And if they start turning on the spigot where they're constantly flowing money into Bitcoin, that is that's a derivative kind of market dynamic. It's not just a one-time, net adding, net buy of Bitcoin. It is a velocity of buying a Bitcoin, and it's just like we're playing these different ball games that just fundamentally change the way the market works. So yeah, like there are reasons to believe that this could be the super cycle. This could be the last 4-year kind of stint that we get. And like if that does happen 4 years from now, and we're like there was no bear market, it's not going to be any sort, no one's going to be sitting there like stroking their chin, wondering what happened. It was like, okay, the top performing stock, the biggest hedge fund, and the U.S. government all were buying Bitcoin as quickly and rapidly as they possibly could. Like we crossed the chasm. Like we're not in the same world anymore. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish, as you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, without even mentioning the fact that, Trump is about to come out soon, at the end of January or whatever, saying, and by the way, we're going to do a strategic reserve plan. Well, then what do you think is going to happen in Europe, in Asia, everywhere? People are going to have to, like, at this point, it doesn't make any sense not purchasing it. And by the way, shocker, this thing has a cap, and when we say 21 million is a lie, because A, some has been lost forever. B, some people will never sell. So we don't even know, probably 60 million, some has to be mined yet. So it's impossible to say how many we have around. And there's going to be a huge amount of demand coming in, because I don't think anyone is going to follow Michael Saylor entirely, because that's a crazy play. But they'll take a percentage of their portfolio, say, hey, maybe we do 5%. We are into an echo chamber. Like, it's a bunch of us talking to each other, being mega bullish.
Totally.
But the average Joe has no clue. So this is what I'm saying to my audience. Guys, it's not even early. The train isn't even built yet.
What's so true about that too is just you said like some of these companies are all just going to be like maybe just 1%, right? But isn't that what we all did? Like, didn't everyone start out in Bitcoin saying like, all right, I'll buy a little bit just to see what's going on here? We all know how this game ends. Like once you go from 0 to 1, you end up at 100. Like there is no stopping it. So the reality is like we are laying the foundation right now for the end of the 4 year cycle, because it's just not like there's not enough Bitcoins. There's just not enough Bitcoins.
You do start by tipping your toes, right? And then you realize, holy, like my monies are multiplying. I have to do nothing. Okay, great. That's fantastic. I'll buy more. And little you know, you become a DGen 100% into this thing. So,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's you buy a little bit, it goes up, and then you're like, why didn't I buy more? Why did I only buy a little bit? And then you buy more, and then it goes up more, and then you're like, all right, I got to go all in. So,
it's a really good
like
point.
that's human psychology, right? Like no one's immune from that, including governments, including corporations, including hedge funds. No one's immune from it.
Do you do anything else or you are just Bitcoin? You are stocks, gold. Have you have any other investments?
I will dip my toe into other things from time to time, but it's so rare, because every time I have to think to myself, am I going to outperform Bitcoin? Like Bitcoin is my unit of account. And so the bar that you have to hit in order to outperform Bitcoin is so high that there's just not many investments out there that I think are worth it. Bitcoin is, like I said earlier, it's the best trade, it's the best investment of our lifetime, maybe of human history. So, the idea to me of trying to dip my toe into anything else is just it's really hard to do. And I have to like live somewhere, right? I have a house, like that kind of stuff. But beyond that, it's pretty tough to look at, diversifying too much.
I agree. Also, it goes without, I mean, at least for me, like I spend so much time into this thing, like every day looking into data, doing live shows, talking to people, that my conviction is getting grounded over and over and over, right? And sometimes I speak to people, they have maybe a different play. Like I had a chat with Peter Schiff, for example, which is completely anti-Bitcoin. So, because of course, if you only speak with Bitcoiners, you'll be a Bitcoiner kind of thing. But I like to speak to other
Mhm.
people. They maybe are into altcoins only. They don't even have Bitcoin in their portfolio, which I don't even know how they sleep at night, but that's a different conversation. So spending all this time in here, it grounded me so much. I'm physically all in. I have a small allowance that allow me to pay rent and put petrol in my car, but that's pretty much it. I stack sats as much as I can. And then, of course, I have my DGen portfolio that I like to gamble every now and then, but it's nothing serious. And I know that if it's going to nothing, I'm having a laugh. It's more like the experience. I was trading meme coin the other day with Da Vinci in Moscow. It was super fun, but it's just like a couple of $100. Who cares if we buy whatever that goes to nothing? We have a laugh. I'm not building my net worth, or I'm not storing my value or my wealth. But I think it depends on the personality. I respect everyone, by the way. I don't have anything against anyone. But I think for me specifically, every now and then, I like to go to Vegas and gamble. If I make money, I'll buy more sats. If I lose money, oh well, I had fun. So who cares?
Well,
So there's
totally. So a couple of thoughts on this, and this may sound interesting coming from, someone who runs the Bitcoin only conference and Bitcoin magazine and all, the story that I told you. But there are kind of like two thoughts I have about this, and one is silly and the other one is serious. Number one is I love meme coins, and I think that this whole time in crypto, it's actually always been meme coins, and it's just utility was the meme. We had all of these utility coins, all these layer ones, all of these doodads that people invented, where it was like, you buy this coin and then something happens, right? And then that something is going to make this coin valuable or more valuable. And the reality is that none of the coins ever traded on the fundamental of that actual mechanism. It was all just speculative, and it was all the meme that they were going to do something. And the beauty of meme coins is that we just cut to the chase. And it's just like, all right, this meme is funny. This meme is compelling. This meme is interesting. I'll buy it. And that's all anyone's ever been doing in this space, to be honest. And you could even make the argument that Bitcoin is the ultimate meme coin, because the 21 million meme, the digital gold, like some of these things, the inflation hedge, these memes have been so compelling that it just perpetuates itself, and it kind of worms your way into the back of your brain. You know you can't forget it. You can't unsee it. So what I will say though, and this is now to contradict all of that, is that because we're in the state now where we have a strong say in how financial markets are regulated and how securities can be built, there is fundamental technology here that should open up the ability to create digital securities. And I've long held this position, so has David, which is that a lot of these altcoins, are really bad because they like legally aren't allowed to be a security. Like they're trying to avoid being deemed an illegal security. And so because of that, they can't give you dividends on the future cash flows of their protocol. They can't give you governance over the protocol from a fundamental perspective. You know, like there are these things where it's actually like, oh, this like a security is well defined. It's something that gives you governance and rights to future cash flows. And so it turns out like that's the thing you want to own. But because that requires this massive compliance issue with the SEC that's never been resolved, we're going to build something that looks like that, but isn't that, because if it was that, then we would get a big fine slapped on top of us. And so there's this kind of hope that I have that maybe we can actually just rewrite those rules, make it a lot easier for these crypto securities to actually exist. And then, you know, someday I would love it if my company's stock was a security that you could buy and trade, and it exists on a rail that you know sits in your wallet, and you know you can actively move and you know you can send to other people, and there's a conversion mechanism on the back end like we've already built out in so many of these payment methods, and you know like I can go to any store and basically pay with stock in my company, right? And it just converts on the like all of that stuff. Like we already have the infrastructure built out, and the only thing we're missing is the regulatory red tape. And so, you know, like we'll see exactly how that evolves. And of course, you know, my Bitcoiner sense is that all of that is built on fundamental Bitcoin rails, and you know, with Bitcoin being the underlying way that you price all of those assets, right? But but it doesn't prevent those assets. Like it's not going to be the only valuable thing in the world. And so, you know, I am optimistic that we can finally pass the point where, you know, it's like we created a bunch of utility things that had no utility. And then slowly we realized that actually it's all just a meme. You know, everything we've been doing over the past decade is just meme coins. And now we're just doing meme coins straight up. But we can do meme coins and then we can actually do securities. And I think that's the future of the industry, especially like the crypto industry. And I'm optimistic on it. I really am.
To put the orange cherry on the bullish cake, I mean, the SEC had is going. I mean, that's technically what Trump promised, and I think he's going to resign before. So we'll have a bullish SEC commissioner. I've seen a few names flying. I don't think they have a pick yet, but so far I'm really happy with what I've seen. So that's going to be helping the whole industry. And also I think the all roads that bring to Bitcoin. Like if you are someone who trades meme coin, you will see a possible scenario, which I think is binary. You will see either someone who makes money, and then when they make money, they go, okay, how do I keep it? Because now this money is digital, so it's not into my bank account. So what's my store of value? Oh, Bitcoin is staying there, so I'm going to buy Bitcoin. But if they lose everything, well, hey, why have I lost it? I should have bought Bitcoin. So it doesn't matter how you go in. I think Bitcoin is the answer. And also, I think I see everything else but Bitcoin a massive testnet, like you said. For example, think about ordinals and runes. They've been done on Ethereum first, and now Solana with the NFT. Like everything is coming in and then go back into Bitcoin, into a different mode. So I think we are using those side chains to test what we want into Bitcoin. And I think we'll see many more layers like Lightning being used for, even though I had a good chat with Adam Back in Amsterdam, and he said, I believe Bitcoin is more a store of value than a currency. For now, right? We all agree that maybe people are going to start building other things. And it's like the internet. Back in the days, you know, we had TCP/IP, now we have FTP, SMTP, and now we have Wi-Fi and all these things. We didn't know they existed back then because it was just a protocol. Base money, sound money, Bitcoin is the base of the economy, and then we can build on top of it. And I think we are using those meme altcoins as a kind of a test net to see what sticks, and then what does stick is going to go back into Bitcoins.
I think you're totally right. And so, you know, like I think that in some ways it's all just emblematic of the transitory period we're in. You know, like we're in this point in time where Bitcoin is growing and it's taking over the world, and there's all this money flowing around, you know, around it. You know, some people are trying to figure out ways to get more Bitcoin than they otherwise could by just buying it. And the way that they're doing that is by buying things that are derivative or tangential to it that, you know, they expect to go up faster than it. That strategy will work for a while. then it will stop working. And at that point, the money will FOMO faster than you've ever seen into Bitcoin. And like I think that the meme coins, first of all, like I do think that there's just something that is sticky about the idea of a meme coin. I don't think that they're going to go away. I'll publicly say that I don't think meme coins are going to go away. They're more like the reason why they're hitting multi-billion-dollar valuations is more akin to the fact that there's so much money in the system right now. There's so many dollars sloshing around, and they're chasing stocks that are so overvalued, and therefore, it's just not a. Like you might as well just buy a meme coin because, like, why are you buying this IBM stock that hasn't innovated in 20 years but is sitting in the Fortune 500, or it's like why would I buy that versus this picture of a dog that is hilarious and is going up more, like so I think that it's a moment in time, but that Bitcoin will ultimately fix that, and you'll have like meme coins in the future, but they're not going to be in the same ballpark as Fortune 500 companies. We'll put it that way. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch.
I agree. I mean, also the lottery exists, right? So people buy the ticket. So the whole thing makes sense,
Totally.
right? I don't like to think about there's going to be only one, which is Bitcoin, dominating everything. There's going to be parts of the market which is going to be made by, I don't know, layer ones or other things or memes or NFTs. There's never a market who conquers all of it. Maybe a big portion, maybe 80%, but the rest of 20% will be split by different things. And like we were saying, it's a cultural thing, right? So meme exists, they are funny. So if you can own pieces of it and make money, or have the idea at least, because that's what people think, because they think they become millionaires and they lose everything.
Mhm.
But hey, people go to the casino, people buy the lottery tickets, go to Vegas and gamble on that, 7 rand and see what happens. As long as you do it
Yeah.
responsibly, that's my take.
No, totally, totally. And I mean, like, I think the last thing I'll say on sort of the meme coin stuff is that I think the thing that made it click to me, where I went into this state of like, okay, utility was always the meme, was like the breakthrough meme coin was Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Tin Inu. And they had this really stupid website, and you could like click around, and they had this video, and the video was this old man who kind of looked like Ron Paul, and he goes, "Imagine telling your mom that you quit your job because Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Tin Inu coin mooned, right?" And it was like, that is the fundamental thesis of every meme coin: is can I tell my mom, can I tell my grandma that I got rich off of this thing, this stupid
Yeah.
thing over here, and not disappoint her, basically. And so, like it almost meta built on itself to the point where like it cracked the facade of all of crypto in my mind, actually what all of this is. And so, I give that one a lot of credit. Like I actually think that it was genius in a lot of ways, but it fundamentally changed how I view all coins, all altcoins. Is just like, yeah, these are all just memes to get rich, and they're dressing them up in a way where you think you can kind of tell yourself a story of why you got rich off of it, when the reality is it's just gambling, it's just memes. And yeah, that's it. And Bitcoin lives in this entirely different world from that.
On top of all these exciting things we just discussed, Abu Dhabi is coming. So 9th and 10th of December, we're going to be in Bitcoin Mina.
Yeah, so the like we've been building this actually all year in the background, and we're partnering with the Abu Dhabi government on this event. They reached out to us, basically telling us that they really wanted us to do an event. Uh, Without giving away too much, I can say that I'm understanding more and more why they reached out to us and why they were so excited to have the Bitcoin conference come to Abu Dhabi. And they're I think I said this in a Twitter space maybe a couple days ago, but there are a few of these Bitcoin conferences where it's really about come hang out with your friends, meet other Bitcoiners, enjoy, celebrate the bull market, whatever, right? And then there are a few that are, I was there. Like I was there when this happened, and this event is going to be one of those. This event is going to be one of those where either you were there and you witnessed it and you were part of the moment, or you weren't. And so all I can say is like I am very excited for next month. I think we've got some major things cooking that will hopefully grab some international headlines. Obviously, we've got a few folks from the Trump world coming to speak. Eric Trump will be there. Paul Manafort, Steve Witkoff, who's now the U.S. like emissary to the Middle East. He got named that a couple of days ago. So, we've got like some Trump adjacent folks who we've met throughout this year. We've got some massive names in the crypto world. CZ will be there. We'll have some pretty big guys and gals that are going to be speaking, and then we've got some folks from, let's just say, like around the GCC, who are working on some very special projects, and we're working with them right now to be able to unveil some of those. So stay tuned and definitely get your ticket because you're not going to want to miss this.
And like you said, those moments like Trump was in Nashville, in Amsterdam, you have Jack Moller, Adam Back, like really, really, really OG in the space. At this time, you have so many friends also of mine, like Zuby, but many others like Eric Trump, like you mentioned, Max Kaiser and Stacy. The list is incredible. So I cannot wait to be to Abu Dhabi. Of course, meeting you in person would be amazing. I'm really thankful you decided to share your story with us. It's been great having you on the show.
No, and it's been great to meet you, and Maurizio, very excited to cheers a beer over in Abu Dhabi with you, and enjoy. It's going to be a fun few days, and we might just change the world in the process. We'll see.
And thank you so much, man.
100%.
See you guys on the next one.